Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to the tail end of Unit 3.1. We're going to be covering activism that changed California. So we're going to be reading about a couple different things that caused some changes in California's history and modified the state and the laws of the state to what they are today. So the first thing we're going to read about is Mendez versus Westminster, and this is a court case from 1947. Now, before we get started, make sure your name and date are at the top. Make sure you are going to be annotating as you read through. Sylvia Mendez, a Mexican-American immigrant in California, was told she could not attend a public school because of her race. So because she was Mexican, they told her that she couldn't go to a regular public school. Her father, Gonzalo Mendez, took the Orange County school districts to court to fight for his daughter's rights. His attorney, which means lawyer, argued that Mexican American children could never feel like true American citizens if they could not attend the same schools as white children. They won their case, and school segregation was made illegal in the state. So basically, what this is telling us was that in the year 1947, Sylvia Mendez's father took the Orange County school districts to court, and he said, "What you're doing is not constitutional, it's not legal. I want my daughter to be able to go to a regular public school like everybody else." And they won that court case. And the result of that, the way that it changed California, is that now that kind of segregation was made illegal in the state of California. So they couldn't separate people out or tell people they couldn't attend specific schools because of where they were from. The next thing we're going to read about is the Asian American movement in the 1960s. So in the late 1960s, Asian Americans created organizations to fight for their rights. Japanese families had lost everything after living in internment camps, and other Asian Americans faced racism because of the Vietnam War. In 1976, President Gerald Ford apologized for the actions towards Asians during World War II. So during this particular time period, while America was at war, the way that Asian Americans were treated in this country was really bad. So they would place them in internment camps, which is basically like jails, or like they were basically caged off. You know, they lost all their possessions, they lost their freedoms and their rights, and they were treated very badly simply because they were Asian American. Now, in 1976, yes, President Ford apologized for these actions, but it doesn't undo what damage was done to these people. So, something important to bear in mind. Next, we're going to talk about the occupation of Alcatraz in 1969. So, on November 20th, 1969, Native Americans declared that the land where the former prison was located belongs to them. So, they said that the land where Alcatraz prison, this is a jail, the land that it was on was Native American land, and they wanted it back. They demanded that the government turn it into a Native American center and a university. So they stayed there for 19 months. They stayed on that land trying to get this to happen. And unfortunately, after 19 months, the United States removed them off of the land. And this movement, this action brought a lot of attention to the difficulties that Native Americans were facing in the United States at that time. Even though it was their land and they were there first, they were being forced off of it again. Now, on the next page, what you're going to do after you place your name and date there is you're going to use complete sentences to talk about the problem that was addressed, what the activists did, and the end result. So we talked about 3 different issues. You're going to list those 3 problems, the 3 actions that were done by people, and the end result. And that will take you to the end of this assignment. Make sure your name and date is on everything before you turn it in.